Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Our house in the middle of our street.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, Christmas is just a short memory away, the Christmas season.
Yes, it came and went fast, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and unfortunately sometimes the spirit goes away as you roll into January and you get yourself, into the new year. We always wish we could freeze frame that spirit. And earlier in 2015, just before Christmas, I had occasion to stop by the Sandhills Moore Coalition for Human Care and spend some time with Barrett Walker, who is the executive director. And it was an eye-opening experience. We always talk about the haves and the have-nots. Mm-hmm. Today, all over the TV with the presidential elections, we're talking about the haves and the have-nots. And you just don't have to leave Moore County to see the dichotomy between the people here and how much good work the Moore Coalition for Human Care does, because there are always people that are going to be less fortunate than us. And it doesn't have to be the Christmas season to talk about it, because it's a 12-month-a-year endeavor.
Yes, it is.
Barrett was on our show a little over a year ago, and we wanted to have her come back because, number one, she's a great spokesperson.
Yes, she is.
Number two, she has a lot of information to share with us, and we're going to go back to the beginnings of the origins of the coalition, how it evolved, what they're doing today, and why they fill such an important need in Moore County. Doesn't matter which month of the year we're talking about. So with that in mind, Barrett, I'll say good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Happy New Year, about 25 or 30 days late.
Happy New Year to you.
I really enjoyed coming over to the coalition and getting a first-hand tour from you. I wish more people would get over there to see what is being done, because, boy, does it resonate.
I wish more people would come to our tour. I think a lot of people think they know what we do.
Right.
It's an amazing organization, and I think coming and taking a tour and seeing it firsthand is absolutely the best way to really understand the scope of our services and the impact we have on this community.
Yeah, it's in many ways it's jaw-dropping.
It really is.
I was taken by the enthusiasm of your volunteers, the systems that you have in place, the resale shop, the kitchen, the way you have people coming in on almost a weekly basis in need. You do a lot more than, well, give us an overview of the coalition. Start us from the beginning, because we have lots of time today, and I love talking to you, and the show is yours.
And it's one of my favorite topics, so I guess I can certainly fill an hour. The idea really came from the Fellowship of Churches. It was a loose organization of churches in Moore County that was formed to identify needs in the community, and they had some wonderful organizations come from that. The coalition, obviously, as well as Family Promise and some other nonprofits. The idea being to eliminate duplication of services,
right,
to kind of have a central point. So there was somewhere for folks in need to go, but to also maximize the resources and the impact that we were able to make. So that was about 30 years ago. We still stay true to that original mission, which I think speaks volumes to those who founded us. Primary services continue to be food, which is obviously a huge need, clothing, and then financial assistance, primarily to ensure that folks have a roof over their head, running water, electricity, heat, obviously is a big thing this time of year. So we're staying true to that, but we're going to talk a little bit later about some new programs that we're looking at for 2016. We're always trying to identify and meet the needs of the community. Obviously, we can't be everything to everybody. We really work on a crisis agency concept, so immediate temporary assistance. So although we have people coming in every day, they're different people every day. We're not really sustaining anyone. The goal is to kind of meet their immediate need and then work with them on longer-term solutions.
Yeah. For those who don't know, and tell us where the coalition is located.
Well, we actually have two locations. We have our client services location, which is where you visited,
Right.
and where I encourage folks to visit because a lot of people don't even realize it exists.
Right.
It's over on West Indiana Avenue behind Southern Pines Primary School.
Right.
And that's where people come to ask for help. Everybody knows the resale shops, which are a huge part of what we do. They're over on West Pennsylvania Avenue. That's where we accept clothing and household donations. We have 4 thrift stores. The items that are sold at the thrift stores, the revenues are used over at client services to provide assistance to folks in need.
Right. And it's a nonprofit organization.
We're a 501c3.
And you are reliant on the local businesses, the community, yes, the churches, but you have also reached out your tentacles to a much larger population.
And that's a great point. You know, we talk a lot about the churches.
Right.
People know us because, you know, the organization was formed through the churches, and they're extremely important to what we do. I don't mean to downplay that at all.
Right.
But it's grown so much beyond that.
Right.
We have everyone. I always laugh and say you'd be hard-pressed to mention an entity in Moore County that doesn't support us. The schools, the public schools, the private schools, the civic clubs, individuals, businesses. It really is a community effort to serve these families who are having a difficult time.
So my observation about you as you walk through the location on West Indiana,
Yes.
is there's almost a maternal quality to what you do and what you oversee with your volunteers. And it's sort of like you've taken it under your wing figuratively and literally.
Well, I've been there a long time at this point.
Yeah.
I've just celebrated my 6th anniversary with the Coalition.
Right.
It is very personal to me, and I think anyone who works for a nonprofit, you have to really believe in what you do. It has to be a personal mission for you. It obviously, anyone, you know, we had Amy Fraley from Habitat on with me last time we were here.
Right.
You know, it's a difficult job. It's a very challenging, it's kind of a 24/7, and you have to really be committed to that cause.
Have you, can you go back and look over the last 6 years of some specific success stories where, like Habitat, it's a hand up, not a hand out, where you see people take advantage of the assistance that they're given and then pick themselves up by their bootstraps and get on and improve their lot in life?
Absolutely. And it's amazing to me the number of clients who will come back to us. You know, we provide us, and there's several examples, and they do it in a multitude of different ways.
Right.
You know, we've had clients that we've provided food assistance to, and 6 months later they show up with a couple bags of food and say, you know, I really want to bring this back. We do our pack to pick up food drive, and we see hundreds of clients during that. People that will come out of the grocery stores with a bag of food and say, I'm so glad you were there when we needed you, and now I want to pay it forward.
Oh, I'm glad you just said that, because I was just thinking of the movie, the pay it forward concept.
Absolutely.
In an organic way, that's a very good thing to see happen. Doesn't always happen that way, though, does it?
It doesn't. And, you know, I think part of it is balancing. People always say to me, you know, our people work in the system, you know. Are there people who try? Absolutely. You know, we've been around about 30 years, so we've got a pretty good system in place. You know, people who are in need become desperate at times, and I think you have to keep that in mind, and you have to take a deep breath and figure out how to kind of bring them back to talking about how we can help them. We can't help everybody. We can't be everything to everybody. We're not designed for ongoing assistance, so there's a lot of denials that go on. And working with them for other resources is a huge part of what we do.
And there's no public funding whatsoever for the coalition?
Well, I mean, obviously individual donations. If you mean government funding.
That's what I mean.
Very little. We get, all told, less than $10,000 a year from any government source. We do get a small grant from the County of Moore. We get a small federal grant. But it's all done. The resale shops are our single largest source of income. The churches are huge. We do fundraising. We do grant writing. It's a very diverse portfolio of funding sources. And we're very lucky that has enabled us to continue to meet the need versus relying on government funding that obviously has been very erratic.
And there's a lot of discourse going on this year in our presidential politics, agencies that where people take advantage of agencies, freeloaders, people who do everything they can to beat the system. There's that out there as well, and it negates all the good people that use the services that you provide as a way to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But that underbelly also exists.
It does.
And I'm sure you see it as well.
We do, and honestly, when you look at, our statistics and those we serve and the average visits per household, it's really not there. I mean, our family's average number of visits is less than 2 per year.
Oh, that's good.
So, they're not even taking advantage of, all that they could be eligible for.
Right.
So, I mean, it's really remaining true to that crisis concept of trying to get them what they need when they need it, and then hopefully getting them back on their feet.
Before you joined the Moore Coalition, you were in the hospitality industry.
Was.
You still are.
Kind of, yeah.
You still are. Just on the flip side of it, isn't it amazing how many people in the 6 years that you've been there that in Moore County? It's pretty scary how networked you are.
Yeah, well, and it's the volunteers will laugh because I'm to the point now where you can say a name and I know whether it's a donor or a client or a supporter. And I've been in Moore County for 20 plus years, so and I think that certainly makes my job easier. To have all the wonderful people who support us and all the people that I've met in those 20 years.
You're not just starting up again this year because Christmas is over. It's an ongoing, nothing changes for you because the holiday season comes and goes.
No, we obviously get a lot more support in November and December, lots of food drives and clothing drives, blankets and coats and those types of things. We do see an uptick. I mean, the last couple of weeks, now that it's finally gotten cold, our client numbers have increased. But it's pretty steady. I mean, last year we saw just under 4,700 requests. So, it fluctuates, absolutely. The type of assistance folks request. In the summer, we see a lot more requests for food. Obviously, this time of year, we're seeing requests for clothing and heat. But it's there all year long. And I always try and stress to people, we absolutely appreciate support all year long.
Right.
Not only during the holiday season.
Right. 2015 was a good year for the coalition?
It was a good year. We, I just finished our annual report, and I said every year when I look back, it just amazes me when you look at the impact on the community.
Right.
4,700 client visits, food for almost 7,000 people. When you look at our financial assistance, those that we helped keep electricity, keep running water, prevented eviction, and those are the big items. There's also lots of ancillary services that are a little harder to measure the impact, employment counseling and transportation and diapers and all those things that that really make a difference to people.
It's interesting. You provide help to different generations of people. it's not just one demographic, is it?
It's not, and I get that question a lot, the typical client. There is no typical client.
Right.
We see the 18-year-old that got kicked out of his house and
Right.
doesn't know where to go or what to do. I mean, we see the 93-year-old that is about to, be
Heartbreaking.
disconnected for
Mhm.
electricity or doesn't have heat in their home.
Heartbreaking.
It is.
My mom taught me as a kid that she would watch the news on TV, and if there was bad news or she saw people that were underprivileged or didn't have what she had, she would take a deep breath, and it would make it hard for her to enjoy what she had when she knew that there were other people suffering. How about you? How do you go home at night?
There are days it's difficult.
I bet.
And it has completely changed my perspective.
I bet.
I've been through difficult times in my life, but I've been very fortunate that, I haven't been in the place that some of our clients are in.
Right.
And I think it's important to, keep it in perspective that it could be any of us. I mean, we see people that absolutely have been where you and I are.
Yeah.
And then for whatever turn of events.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to work their way back up.
I learned a long time ago the expression, the difference between old age and dignity. Usually it's just a few dollars. We're going to come back in the second set. We're speaking with Barrett Walker, the Executive Director of the Sandhills Moore Coalition for Human Care. This is All Things Moore County.
There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud. Our mum, she's so house proud. Nothing ever slows her down. And a mess is in the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crown. There's always something.
Welcome back to the second set of All Things Moore County. Barrett Walker is our guest for the whole hour. She is the Executive Director of the Sandhills Moore Coalition for Human Care. It's a very large nonprofit agency in Moore County, and you've been there 6 years, you said.
I have.
You've seen all the good that it does. You guys are a large agency. You're recognized. One of the hardest things, though, I would imagine for you each year is to think outside the box and fundraise, because you have to raise money you have to basically sing for your dinner every night, right?
Absolutely.
You know that expression, that mentality. How do you do it? Do you brainstorm with board members? It's a tough process.
It is, and part of it is finding the needs. There's everybody always says, okay, well, you're doing these new programs. Well, part of new programs is meeting a new need and reaching, new donors, obviously new clients, to meet the need and to kind of think outside the box. Fundraising is all year long, and it never stops. I always laugh. The United Way says that. They talk about their campaign, and Gerald Galloway will tell you in a heartbeat that this year's campaign runs from July 1st to June 30th.
Right.
Next year's will start on July 1st, so it's all year long.
Well, it's interesting. You were on the show a little over a year ago, and just based on the one-on-one conversation with you, I donated. I wanted to get involved. So but that's what you do when you touch people individually. It's if people get to know you and hear you talk, they get enrolled, and then you invite them over and you give them a tour, and that really gets them enrolled. And you don't make it. It's not a command performance at any. You're more than happy to share the information and show people what you do, and you kind of step back and leave it up to them to decide what they want to do. So, kudos to you.
Well, thank you. And that is my hope. Obviously a large part of my job is doing speaking engagements, and whether it's one-on-one or to groups. But I think anyone who comes and sees it or really understands what we do would be moved by it.
Right. In Moore County, we have a very strong volunteer population. Many qualified professional or retired professional people who want to give back. You get to an age where it's not all about your toys and your things and where you went for dinner, but it's about coaching and mentoring
Right.
and giving back to people who maybe are a little bit less fortunate. You have a pretty impressive crew of volunteers.
We do, and obviously I'm a little bit biased, but that probably has been one of the most surprising rewards for me in working at the Coalition is all the people I've gotten to meet and get to know.
Mm-hmm.
They are so different, all walks of life,
Mm-hmm.
all types of background. But they are absolutely the ones who make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I will say to anybody who tells me I'm doing a good job, they should receive all the kudos. They make it happen. They work in the pantry. They screen. They register clients,
Mm-hmm.
work in clothing, employment counselors, drivers, the folks who work at resale, sorting donations. And it's a great opportunity. You know, we're in the new year. A lot of people are making New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great time to kind of step back and think about, you know, where your heart lies. Whether it's at the Coalition or another nonprofit, we all rely on volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage everyone to kind of find, you know, what speaks to them, and go and take a tour. I'm sure the other directors are like I am. We're not going to twist your arm.
Mm-hmm.
We have volunteers who work once a month. We have volunteers who work once a week,
Mm-hmm.
whatever fits with their schedule and their desire.
Mm-hmm.
But it is extremely rewarding. If you're new to the area, it's a great opportunity to meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
Our volunteers are great friends. They have their little cliques that they work together with. So I would really encourage, whether, again, if it's at the Coalition or some other organization, for folks to really consider getting involved.
You mentioned job employment counseling,
Yes.
and I want to talk about that because I don't know that a lot of people realize that that's one of the things that the Coalition provides.
And a lot of people probably don't. That, you know, we talked about our original mission, the food, clothing, and financial assistance. Employment counseling, obviously, is a huge part of what we do. Many of our clients are unemployed, underemployed. Many of them are not computer literate. If you've tried to look for a job recently, it's all online, completing the application. I was shocked and amazed when one of my kids started looking for a job and he was completing online applications, and I mean, it would take him half an hour, 45 minutes to complete the application.
Right.
So our job counselors typically have some type of HR background or HR interest. They each kind of have their own specialty, whether it's, you know, basic skills in education, former offenders who obviously have some unique challenges. They help write resumes. They'll talk about interview techniques, completing those online applications, really whatever type of employment assistance our clients might need. And it's amazing. We've had clients come back and say, oh, I got this job and it's absolutely due to, you know, how you helped me find this available position or fill out this application or write this resume. It's a great service.
Do you have employers in the area who reach out to you and say that, you know, we are looking for certain types of people for certain types of jobs?
We do. We work very closely with the Division of Workforce Solutions over on Highway 5.
Okay.
And we have lots of employers when they do job fairs or when they're opening in the area, or just other employers that have specific openings. Our job counselors are very much on top of that, so they can refer our clients to those businesses.
And this year, in 2016, you actually are taking on a new initiative that takes your employment counseling one step further. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I'm really excited about this program. We identified, several years ago, that many of our clients, even though they might have a job offer, obviously specific positions have specific requirements, whether it's scrubs or work boots or non-slip shoes. The same, my son, when he got his first job, had to have non-slip shoes and black pants, and I went out and spent a couple $100 buying those items. And we were seeing clients who, okay, I've got this job offer, but I'm supposed to start on Tuesday, and I don't have the requirements for the job.
Right.
So our hope is that employers will educate their applicants that this service is available. So if a client has a verifiable job offer and a need for some type of, typically it's clothing, shoes, scrubs, those types of things, that they'll come and see us, and we'll fill that need either through donations received at the resale shops, or if we don't have the proper size or item, then we will actually go out and purchase those items for the client.
Yeah. The pilot, Laura Douglas, actually had an article in the December 30th edition, the Coalition Begins Work Uniform Assistance Program, talking about what you're saying, and this is something that's going to be taking place immediately? Yes,
it started January 1st. Okay. So anyone who has a need can come in, go through our regular screening process, and the screeners will collect all the information, and then we'll figure out how we're going to fill the need and get it taken care of.
You bring up a point. If you're talking to people looking for jobs, they're all different ages.
They are.
What about the requests for clothing? Do you have a stronger demographic that people need certain types of clothes? Is it children's clothes, kids' clothes? Is it men, women? What are your shortages usually?
Well, it's always kids.
Always kids?
I mean, anybody who has young children, particularly boys, but girls also, a lot of times they wear out their clothes. So absolutely, kids' clothes is typically a big need. We actually have another new program. The More Women's Giving Circle awarded us a grant to provide new athletic shoes for students. So we're kind of in the midst of pulling that program together. Lots of other communities have done it. Children's shoes are absolutely one of the greatest needs because, kids just wear out their shoes.
Right.
And we obviously work very closely with school social workers, and that's a big need. Quite often, although we can provide clothing for the kids, shoes are very difficult. So the idea is that before the end of the school year this year, the school social workers will help us identify the children, elementary age children, and we will approach their families to see if they want to participate in the program. And then prior to the beginning of school in August, we have a local retailer that we've identified, and the kids will come to that retailer and be fitted for new athletic shoes. So our hope is this year to serve approximately 200 kids. The funding from the More Women's Giving Circle, I hope I'm saying that right, has provided us, and then we'll match those funds to serve 200 kids. And then hoping that if it goes well, again, it will be able to become an ongoing program. Right now, it's just slated for this year.
The bigger your reach in Moore County, the more requirement for better funding each year.
Absolutely.
It's like you're always running behind the ball, trying to stay even with it. It's just the toughest part of a job.
Well, and it's hard to, you have all these great things you want to do, and, you can have a great idea, and then you've got to kind of take a step back and think about, okay, how are we going to fund that? We are so lucky. There's so many people who support us. And a lot of it, we found ways to kind of take that support and put it to quote unquote better use. We started our basic needs program in 2014, which was providing laundry detergent and toilet paper and toothpaste and soap and those types of things, particularly to clients who had experienced a flood or fire or something, but also unexpected moves or things like that. And along with that, we receive a tremendous amount of travel size. When you go to a hotel and you save all the shampoo and soap and whatnot, And we've actually identified several middle schools and high schools in the area that the students need those items. So we're redistributing those to the school social workers. Nothing goes to waste. We will absolutely find a good use for anything and everything.
Right. We're going to come back in the third set with Barrett Walker talking about the Sandhills Moore Coalition for Human Care.
Middle of our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud. Our mum, she's so house Our house in the middle of our street. Our house in the middle of our house.
Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County. Sandhills Moore Coalition for Human Care is one of my it's become one of my favorite agencies, and going over there, I almost should go every month. No, I'm serious. Just for 30 minutes to observe what happens. And most of the activity at the coalition usually happens in the mornings, from 8 to 12.
8:30 to 11 is our client service hours. We close the doors at 11, but anyone who's registered. So, yeah, normally we wrap things up between 12 and 1.
And then after 12, your volunteers stay on. They're still doing the work, the business of the day, preparing for the next day, for the next set of people that are going to be coming in.
Right. Most of our, at the Client Service Center, most of the volunteers wrap up after lunch.
Yeah.
Staff is there all day. The resale shops are obviously open all day.
Right.
It's interesting to me, even some of our volunteers that don't realize all the things that go on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job, no worries.
How many hours are you putting in a day there?
Well, myself, I normally get there about 7:30. And most
about
days
10 at night.
Well, I do a lot of work from home, so my board is trying to get me to work on that with a little less work from home and after hours and weekends.
Yeah. You formed a lot of friendships and relationships with people in the community, volunteers who have given a lot of their time. The Pilot ran an article a few weeks ago about a husband and wife who were very passionate about the coalition and very dear to your heart, the Gaddies.
Yes.
And how long were they with the coalition?
They started volunteering with us in 2011.
Right.
And it was interesting because they had been there probably several years before I realized that Jim actually was born and raised in West Southern Pines, attended Our Lady of Victory, which was the former school that is now the Douglas Center.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he was a hometown boy, obviously extremely successful. He was superintendent of schools, had gotten, and I didn't realize until the Pilot ran the article, much of his other success that he had in New York. But yeah, he went to Our Lady of Victory school, attended the church, was very passionate about the history of that property over there. Obviously was very passionate about the coalition. We will certainly miss both of them.
He and his wife, a very handsome couple.
They were.
I could imagine them walking into a dance hall 30 years ago, and people would stop breathing. I mean, they just had a very strong presence about them, didn't they?
They did, and that was kind of our running joke when Jim would come to volunteer. He was always dressed to the nines.
Almost regal.
Yes.
Right?
Very.
Both of them.
They were.
Natalie attired. And
two of the biggest hearts you ever knew.
Yeah, so you get to witness a lot of this goodness, a lot of the things that do happen that keep you going. The financial engine of keeping an agency vibrant and growing. always comes back on your shoulders, where you have a very supportive group of board members who comprise a who's who in Moore County, but they're all there to support, and you can brainstorm with them, and you keep coming up with different ideas, different fundraisers. And this year, in particular, on the 21st of February, you have a fundraiser coming up that I know you want to talk about.
I do. Our empty bowls is a nationwide concept. I heard about it when I first started with the coalition, actually from a board member,
Right.
Back in 2009, and we played with the idea. Now that we've committed to doing it, I've talked to several other agencies in the community that also played with the idea. Because it is kind of a nationally recognized brand, so to speak. There are events that are held across the country. There are several very successful ones in Durham and Greensboro. And I really felt like the primary focus is to raise not only funds but awareness of hunger. In Moore County, we talk about that a lot, but a lot of people really don't understand that there are folks in our community who go hungry.
Right.
It's a great event. I'm really excited about it. It's been kind of 6 years in the making. We're going to be at the Elks Club Sunday, February 21st. It will be from 12 to 3 p.m., kind of a drop-in. You can come at 12 and stay the whole time. I'm hoping it'll be that much fun. We have lots of wonderful area restaurants who've signed on to provide their signature soups. So Panera Bread's going to
Comfort
provide
food.
bread. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be hopefully a chilly day, but not too cold. Sandhills Community College culinary students are going to provide dessert for us.
Oh, nice.
We're going to have live music and a pottery demonstration, and it should really be a great event.
So this is really going to be a marketplace for people to come and purchase different bowls?
No, they'll purchase a ticket, and there are different ticket levels.
Okay.
We've been working with the 9th of September. Lots of groups have gone and painted pottery bowls. Lots of the area potters have provided bowls.
Okay.
So you'll attend the event. It's all you can eat, soup, bread, and desserts.
Okay.
With your ticket, you will get to select a commemorative bowl.
Okay.
Depending on the ticket level, either a bowl from the 9th of September or a local pottery bowl.
Okay.
You'll take that bowl home with you, which will be your memento. And the hope really is not only for you to recognize and remember all of those who go hungry that day, and to raise funds, obviously, for the coalition to continue our services of providing food. But you'll have the bowl to kind of help you remember throughout the year that there are those in our community whose bowl is empty.
Right.
And as we talked about at the beginning of the show, it's not only in November and December, but all year long.
Right.
There are folks whose plates are empty in Moore County.
Every month, people can come down to the coalition. They can donate food. They can donate clothes. It's spring cleaning is a great time for people to, and I did that earlier towards the end of last year, and it was a great feeling to do. But there's so many things that people can donate every single month. So do you have, and I have to ask you this, do you have a video of the inner workings of a client services day from 8:30 to 12 that could show people exactly what goes on?
We have a video. I still think visiting is the absolute best thing to do. We do have a video that talks about the history and kind of the process that clients go through.
Right.
It's on our Facebook page. It's on our website. I have copies available. Many of our covenant churches use that for Sunday school groups or whatever. But I absolutely encourage people to visit. I just think seeing the process.
Right, I agree.
I think the video is 12 or 15 minutes. So certainly it's available. I can email it. I can provide copies. But first, nothing beats a first-hand visit.
Maybe this year we should schedule, not we, like I'm including myself, but to schedule like the first Monday of every month is a visitation day.
Absolutely.
For the public, where you would, because you give a great guided tour. It only takes 20 or 25 minutes, but you get the gist of what goes on.
Right.
And you walk out of there with a completely different reality than when you came in. Maybe we should just promote something the first Monday or the first, I don't know,
right?
Something.
I would love to do that. We've done a couple of open house events,
yeah,
which have been great. I really just think to come and see it. There's nothing more impressive, and you really can't understand the scope unless you see it firsthand.
Can you just handle walk-ins?
Absolutely.
In the mornings?
Yeah.
8:30?
We normally have, we have 2 paid staff members at the client services location. So, yes, normally one of us is available. We love to give tours, and the volunteers are happy to show off what they do. They're very proud of the organization.
Mm-hmm. So this year, it's back to the basics. It's fundraising, thinking outside the box. But then towards the end of the year, in the fourth quarter, there are 2 months where you are one of the United Way's agencies.
We are.
And so you you step back from your individual fundraising, and people can also recognize the United Way, and in doing so, recognize the agencies under their umbrella, the Coalition being one of them.
Absolutely. The United Way is a wonderful partnership.
Right.
We're very blessed to be included in that.
Right.
They kind of have, and like I said, Gerald talks about it's 365 days a year, but they do have a focus period where all of their partner agencies help them promote and support their fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of agencies. The Coalition is very well known. We have a good name recognition, but there are some wonderful partnerships that people might not recognize quite as much. And without the United Way funding, they would really, really suffer. So it's a great opportunity for the nonprofits to get together.
Mm-hmm.
We work very closely together. We work very well together. So it's a very important part of our community.
And you also are always recruiting new volunteers.
Always.
So if somebody's listening to this and wants to get in touch with you about volunteering to work at the Coalition, what's the process they need to follow? Well,
they are welcome to call. I always encourage folks to visit our website if they're able, sandhillscoalition.org. We have a volunteers tab, and it kind of outlines a little bit about each department and the volunteers that are needed. They can give us a call, 910-693-1600.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an option on there, option 6 on our automated service, that will transfer them to a staff member. I encourage folks to come and take a tour, see the whole operation. There's lots of times they think they're interested in one department, and kind of once they get there, they realize maybe there's something else that appeals to them a little more.
Mm-hmm.
We want it to be an enjoyable experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's lots of times people try one department, well, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. We have a ton of opportunities. We have lots of folks who work in multiple departments. We just really want it to be a positive experience.
And no specific experience needed other than just the experience of living.
Absolutely.
And the willingness to share.
Right.
And to mentor and to coach.
Yeah.
And they get to meet you, and they get to, I guess, take their direction from you. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Some days. I'm sure some of my volunteers might disagree with that. But we have an operations manager who manages the daily operations at our client services location.
Right.
And then we have a resale manager who manages the daily operations at our resale property. And yes, then they both report to me.
In closing, because of your Southern Pines location, do you find that your reach is not as expansive as you would like it to be outside of the Southern Pines area?
We have struggled with that. We've tried. Obviously, when you look at the location that our clients come from, the majority of them come from Southern Pines.
Right.
They're pretty well dispersed in the other communities beyond that. We've tried doing some satellite locations. We've gone to Carthage. We've gone to Robbins. We've tried setting up actually an office in Carthage. We used to go to Robbins once a month. There were a couple challenges. We didn't really see the demand, and maybe it was because we weren't there every day. We just weren't seeing enough clients to make it worth the resources.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, in order to serve them as we want to, with all the food and the clothes and the employment counselors and the transportation and all those things, you really just can't do that.
We didn't really talk about it, but you do have a transportation service
We do.
for some of the people that come and go, and I've seen the vans shuttle in and shuttle out. So if people don't drive or they are not physically able to, you do provide a transportation service?
We do. We do limited transportation. We have certain routes that we do. We go to the Department of Social Services. We go to the Social Security office in Sanford.
Mm-hmm.
We go to the DMV. We go to the hospital complex.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do door-to-door transportation.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a new program we're really excited about in Moore County that's going to kind of expand upon that part of Moore County transportation.
Okay.
Transportation is obviously a huge issue, and considering the size of Moore County, it's a big challenge. But we do what we can.
The Sandhills Moore Coalition for Human Care is a terrific agency in Moore County. Barrett, you bring a lot of heart and passion to your position, and it's not a job. It's kind of just what you do, and you're a great catalyst and a great spokesperson. And I agree. I would encourage anybody to please go over some morning from 8:30 on and see the coalition at work. It will change your perspective and sort of get your head screwed on correctly these days.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. You're very compelling, and we look forward to having you back, and I wish you the best of luck with 2016.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Everybody have a great week, and we'll talk with you next week. Thank you.
Nothing ever slows her down.